The Royals won a close game on Friday night in St. Louis thanks to some close plays and some very good plays. However, the game was decided in the 8th inning on a misplay, and the Royals took game 1 5-4. Last night the Royals had another excellent day on defense, and another close game was decided by one play, or in this case, one pitch. Final score 5-4. The final game between the Royals and the Cardinals is next on Fox Sports Kansas City.
Happy Father's Day from Busch Stadium in St. Louis. We have 2 more weeks of interleague play, but today is the final game of the I-70 series. And with a win, the Royals will split 6 with the Cardinals this year. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to St. Louis. I'm Ryan Lefevre with Royals Hall of Famer Jeff Montgomery. Happy Father's Day to you watching today. Today is also the final day of the Home Run Challenge. We'll talk more about that later. Home Run Challenge for prostate cancer awareness and research. So Father's Day, Monty, what comes to mind for you?
Well, I was fortunate enough, Ryan, to have my father coach me from Little League all the way through American Legion Baseball. So he's very, very important to my development as a player, but more importantly, development as a person.
And Monty isn't the only pitcher here today who has his father on his mind today. Here's Royals starting pitcher today, Danny Duffy.
He was always there whenever I was playing any sports, any season. He was usually helping out in some way, and, not many kids have that opportunity to have their folks around like my mom and my dad were, But, my dad coached a lot, I didn't really win too many championships when I was younger, but one that stood out, probably my favorite season, was when I was 12 years old. We won the City Series. And he was so psyched. He was more psyched than we were. So, he's a good dude, and, I'm lucky to have both my parents, let alone, a great dad.
After watching Dad on Tuesday when Danny won his first Major League game, no surprise that he was more psyched up with that Youth City Championship. Dan and Mom Deanna enjoying Danny's first Major League win. What'd you think about his start, Monty?
Well, he had a nice job in limiting the damage. Gave up 4 walks, but only 2 hits. And great opportunity for him to get his first Major League win. Got an early Father's Day present for Dan, and hopefully get him another one today.
And a good matchup of 2 young left-handers, 22-year-old Danny Duffy, 24-year-old Jaime Garcia, one of the best young left-handers in the National League, but not against the Royals. We'll see what happens today. We'll have more from Busch Stadium right after this. During today's game, we are participating in the Home Run Challenge. So today, every home run in this game raises $22,000 for prostate cancer research. You can make a pledge by calling 800-798-CURE, that's 2873, or go online at pcf.org. Royals baseball comes to you from Busch Stadium in high definition, brought to you by Time Warner Cable. Get no-fee HD with digital TV from Time Warner Cable. Here's the Royals lineup today, and some changes with the lefty Jaime Garcia on the mound. It'll be Billy Butler batting third and at first base, so Eric Hosmer gets the day off, and Wilson Betemit will be at third base, and that means Mike Moustakas gets the day off, at least from the starting lineup. Danny Duffy will have his first Major League at-bat today. And all the Royals have to do is beat Jaime Garcia here in St. Louis. Here are the Kia numbers with his home and road variances.
Ryan, he's been spectacular here in Busch Stadium. The Royals have solved him on the road. Be looking to do that again here today in St. Louis.
That home ERA is the best in the National League. And if you go back to his most recent home starts, his last 3, he has given up just 1 earned run in 25 innings here at Busch Stadium. Today is a carsoup.com email the booth day. So go to carsoup.com/Royals. Once you're there, CarSoup will ask for your zip code, so fill that in. You'll be sent to a different page where you can submit your question. We'll check in with Joel a couple of times today to answer your carsoup.com questions. And with that, Alex Gordon goes after the first pitch and fouls it away against Jaime Garcia. 24 years old, Jaime Garcia. He is out of Reynosa, Mexico. Curveball got away from him. 1 ball, 1 strike. Alex homered in the 7th inning last night, and that put the Royals in front 4-3, and it looked like it would be the game-winning hit until Matt Holliday hit a 2-run home run for the Cardinals in the bottom of the 8th. 3 balls and 1 strike.
Right, Jaime Garcia has an excellent curveball. Talked earlier about his repertoire, and he will not throw a pitch if he doesn't feel like it's working for him on that given day.
He has not done well against the Royals at all. 2 starts, and going into both of those starts last year and this year, he was pitching very well, but he's given up 8 earned runs in 7 innings. A loss and a no decision. Got that pitch in on Alex's hands. Pete Kozma is at second base today and throws him out. So let's look at the rest of the Cardinals defensively today, brought to you by Ram Trucks. And in the outfield, it's Matt Holliday, Colby Rasmus, Andrew Brown will make his 3rd major league start with Daniel Descalzo, Ryan Theriot, Pete Kozma, Albert Pujols on the dirt, and Yadier Molina behind the plate for Garcia. And a strike to Melky Cabrera. 2 hits in this series, giving him a team leading 82 on the year. No balls, 2 strikes. (83°), mostly sunny in St. Louis today. Game started at 1:16, and the time and temp is brought to you by the parking spot at KCI. Chop to third. Tough play for Descalzo coming in, and no play. Let's wait and see how they score it. That might be a base hit anyway if he fields it cleanly. And the official score will hit Descalzo with an error.
Tough little play coming in, but certainly a play that Major League third baseman should make. Got the ball in on the hands on Melky here. Descalzo coming in. Just couldn't quite get the handle to get over to first base.
And now 1 on 1 out for Billy Butler. Billy starts for the first time in the series. He did appear as a pinch hitter on Friday night. He flied out, and as a pinch hitter last night and struck out. There has been some debate, Monty, as to whether Billy's streak is a significant one or not. He is hit safely in 128 consecutive series. That's the longest, second longest current streak in the major leagues.
I think it means something to him. Yeah, I think it would mean something to Billy Butler. You know, you have a streak going like that for so long, you like to keep it intact. Obviously pressure on him today to get a hit with only 2 at-bats in this series up to this point.
He has shattered the previous team record. Willie Wilson had gone 96 consecutive series with at least 1 hit. The longest current streak is Nick Markakis of the Orioles. He's had 161 consecutive series. And Billy grounds it past Kozma, so that will take care of the streak. Melky Cabrera to third. Eddie Rodriguez will wave him home. So Billy gets more than a hit. He drives in a run with a double, and the Royals lead 1-0.
He's trying to get that little cutter inside. Billy goes with a pitch in, pulls it down the line, just past Descalzo at third base. Melky running all the way. I don't think there's much doubt if he's going to stop at third base with his speed. Comes in standing.
And now Jeff Francoeur who homered against Garcia in Kansas City back in May. Very high in the air to left field, brought down by Holiday. So Butler at second base with 2 outs. Jaime Garcia, 6 wins and 2 losses. This is his 15th start of the year. Second time he's faced the Royals this year. 5 innings, 3 earned runs back on May the 22nd. Going back and looking at that game, the Cardinals had a 7-1 lead in the 4th inning. And shortly after that, Tony La Russa started pulling some of his regulars out of the game, including Garcia, who went just 5. Matt Holliday came out early.
Yeah, I felt like a chance to get some of those guys off. He was thinking ahead maybe to Sunday, but unfortunately the Royals came back and made it a tie game.
Alan Craig was another player that came out early. Royals ended up tying the game in the 7th inning, and then the Cardinals won it 9-8 and 10. Last year when the Royals beat Jaime Garcia and they won that game 10-2, the biggest hit for the Royals came off the bat of Wilson Betemit, who hit a 3-run home run against Garcia, who by the way doesn't give up any home runs at all. A broken bat roller to Descalzo, low throw, and Pujols bails him out. Royals get an unearned run in the top of the 1st inning. Tony La Russa, the former Kansas City A's player, made his big league debut for the A's back in 1963, and that's when he met Dave Duncan, who stands to his right. Here's his lineup today: Ryan Theriot, Colby Rasmus, Albert Pujols, Matt Holliday, Yadier Molina, Andrew Brown in right field. So no Lance Berkman. Daniel Descalzo, the pitcher, will bat 8th again today, and Pete Kozma is at second base. And the Cardinals will see for the first time Danny Duffy. Here's the Kia report.
Yeah, equal game started home and on the road here, but I think the key for Danny Duffy today is limiting the base runners. We talked last night about leadoff batters getting on base. Danny Duffy just needs to eliminate base runners. He did a nice job last time. 8 base runners, only 2 runs in 6 innings. Real key for him was not walking anyone.
He has walked 21 in 30 1/3 innings. However, of those 21 walks, only 3 have turned into runs. And that's dropped out into right field for a base hit. Ryan Theriot hitting a pretty good pitch, and his 3rd hit in the last 2 games.
It's like Danny's trying to come in, doesn't get in quite enough. He stays with the pitch, just enough to get it out in the right field for a single.
Good pitch, right swing. If he tries to pull that ball, his bat shatters into 17 pieces. And a curveball's in for a strike to Colby Rasmus.
Nice to see a leadoff curveball from Danny Duffy. I think that's a pitch he needs to be able to get to more frequently. Use the front door there.
And now Rasmus, that's into left center field, but it's slicing, so playing in towards Alex Gordon, who makes the catch, and Theriot is back to first. And now Ram Trucks will show us the Royals defensively today. Gordon Cabrera, Frank Coor in the outfield, and changes on the infield on the corners. Wilson Betemit at third, Billy Butler at first. Their first starts of this series. And Matt Trainer once again will call the game for Danny Duffy. Betemit playing for the first time in the series. Billy Butler had a couple of pinch hit appearances in the first 2. So 1 on, 1 out to Albert Pujols. Pujols last night had an RBI double, his only hit of the series, and his only RBI against the Royals this year. Just 1 out of 8 overall in the first 2 games, but quite a few hard ground balls, which is exactly what the Royals are hoping for. Pujols leads the National League, grounding into 17 double plays. That 190 number, 4 out of 21, is a little deceiving because, as I said, some of those outs have been well struck. And another curveball. No balls and 2 strikes on Pujols.
Danny coming with a little backdoor curveball against Albert Pujols. Showing him a little bit of everything here in this at bat.
And that curve is grounded to the left side. So Duffy got the ground ball, but well placed past the diving Wilson Bettamy.
Maybe went to the well one too many times here on the curveball with Albert. Plus he got this pitch up where he can get extended.
So 2 on with 1 out, and now Matt Holliday. Holliday has played 3 games since coming back from the disabled list on Thursday, out with a left quad injury. Fouls that pitch off of Matt Trainor's mask.
Nice fastball. Matt Trainor didn't like the result.
Holliday in those 3 games back from the DL, 5 hits, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs. Bottom of the 8th with 1 out last night, hit a 2-run home run off of Greg Holland, putting the Cardinals in front 5-4, and that was the final score. Another reason why Danny Duffy has to be careful with his walks today.
Yeah, the middle of this Cardinals lineup, you have to be careful. Even though Lance Berkman's not in there today, those with Albert Pujols and Matt Holliday batting back to back, you have to be really aware of them when you're trying to orchestrate the lineup. How do you approach it?
Holliday did not miss that pitch last night.
No, he did not.
Just a little bit outside, running it up there at 95 miles an hour.
Throwing him 3 good fastballs here. Opportunity to maybe change it up a little bit.
And he goes with a curve, and it's fouled away. Holliday and a few other teammates, to shake the long losing streak, hiked up their pants, which players do when either they're struggling or the team is struggling. But he did more than that. He borrowed Red Shandy's pants. Those are not his pants. And since he hit a 2-run home run, he decided to wear them again today, because you never mess with a streak. Holliday strikes out here, and they're 2 down in the first inning.
Danny Duffy was not intimidated by what he saw from Matt Holliday last night. Comes right at him, gets him on a nice fastball up and away.
So 2 on, 2 out. Duffy gets his first strikeout, and now he gets Yadier Molina, who did not play on Friday night, 1 for 4 last night. Batting at .301. And once again, Duffy flips a curve in for strike 1.
Good sign when he can lead off the at bat with a breaking ball or a changeup.
One and one. Ryan Theriot opened the inning with a single. Colby Rasmus flied out. Albert Pujols singled. And Duffy just struck out Matt Holliday. And throws a fastball right by Molina. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Seems to have a little juice on that fastball today early.
coming off his first major league win on Tuesday at Oakland with about 100 to 125 friends and family watching at the Coliseum. And in that game, he got off to a very good start. Gave up just 1 hit and no walks in his first 3 innings. 2 balls and 2 strikes, and then got into a little bit of trouble in the 4th and 5th innings. Not what Danny wanted to do, but I think it was encouraging for the Royals as they watched him, because he worked out of that trouble in those 2 innings and then had a strong 6th inning before calling it a night.
Yeah, it was a great sign to see him close out a couple of those innings when he was flirting with disaster, able to close them out, put a 0 on the board.
Fouled back, still 2 balls, 2 strikes on Molina.
Be a little late movement from Matt Trainer trying to get the ball in on him. He got it in on his hands a little bit, up in the strike zone.
It'll be 3 balls and 2 strikes, and with 2 outs, Terrio and Pujols will be running with the next pitch. And before Duffy delivers the next pitch, we get some words of encouragement from Matt Trainer.
Yeah, really missed wide on this one. Matt Trainer's winning the ball down and in, and all the pitches in this at bat against Molina have been up in the strike zone or out away from the strike zone. So got to refocus down, get it down around the knees. We see that with a lot of young pitchers. They get a little excited, try to overthrow the ball ends up in the strike zone. Matt Trainer probably told him to calm down a little bit, work down in his zone.
And with the runners going, Molina somehow lays off that pitch just below the knees. So the bases are loaded with 2 outs in the bottom of the 1st.
Yeah, that pitch sure looked good on our Fox tracks. I'm sure Danny Duffy would like to have that one.
So Terrio at 3rd base. He and Albert Pujols reached on singles, and now Molina at 1st after a walk. So Molina walks a 301 hitter, and now Duffy gets Andrew Brown, who's hitting 111. Andrew Brown out of the Cardinals system, drafted out of the University of Nebraska back in 2007. He grew up in Texas. Appeared in the game last night as a pinch hitter, and he struck out against Tim Collins. 1 ball, 1 strike. So Danny Duffy, at least early in the game, won't have to worry about Lance Berkman. Fastball right by him. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Andrew Brown has only had 9 at bats since being called up. This is his 6th game. He is 1 for 9. Does have an RBI. Two and two.
None of these Cardinals hitters have seen Danny Duffy at the major league level, so it's I think it's important for him to take advantage of the fact that they don't know him. I think the pitcher has an advantage first time through.
Provided, of course, he's throwing strikes. And that curve is lined to left field for a base hit. Pujols will be waved home, and Alex's throw arrives late. It hit Pujols. So Andrew Brown comes through with 2 outs and puts St. Louis in front 2-1.
There's a breaking ball that just hangs up in the strike zone. Andrew Brown able to put wood on it, get into left field, 2 RBIs. 2 outs guys running all the way. Even Albert Pujols able to score from second on this one.
So a 2-run single. Brown goes to second on the throw home. So we had just shown you how good the Cardinals have been this year with men on base, with runners in scoring position, with runners in scoring position and 2 outs, and Andrew Brown comes through. Daniel Descalzo, 1 out of 4, a couple of walks in the first 2 games. 1 ball, 1 strike. A local kid, David Freese, is supposed to be the Cardinals, was supposed to be the Cardinals' everyday third baseman, but he went down with a broken left hand in early May. So Daniel Descalzo getting a lot of time at third base. The Cardinals also signed Nick Punto, the former Minnesota Twin, during the offseason, but he's been on the DL twice. So a big opportunity for Descalzo, 3rd-round pick of the Cardinals in 2007 out of the University of California at Davis. In 2009, he played for Royals third base coach Eddie Rodriguez and Jamie Quirk when they coached the World Cup team, and they won the gold medal. Duffy gets him with a high fastball. The Cardinals score 2 in the bottom of the first to lead 2-1. Royals baseball is brought to you by AT&T, the nation's fastest mobile broadband network. By Panera Bread Catering. Order online at PaneraKansas.com. And by Chevy. See your Kansas City area Chevy dealers. We remind you to look for the Miller Lite Taste Greatness moment later in today's game. And Matt Trainer was a candidate last night with 2 hits, including his 3rd home run of the year. Also at home plate, making a couple of plays on outs at home plate. Royals and Cardinals playing in front of another big crowd today. 40,000 on Friday, 43,000 here last night. And Jaime Garcia throws ball 1 to Trainer. Royals got a run in the top of the first, and the key play in that inning was Melky Cabrera reaching on an error by the 3rd baseman Descalzo. And then Billy Butler doubled him home. And then the Cardinals getting a 2-run single from Andrew Brown in the bottom of the first. One ball, 2 strikes. Still 1-2. Jaime Garcia, born in Mexico, but he went to high school in Mission, Texas. Therefore, he was eligible for the draft, a 22nd round draft pick, 2005. There are a lot of teams in Major League Baseball that would like to have Jaime Garcia, and probably asking themselves, how did this guy drop to the 22nd round?
Always those guys behind the scenes find the diamonds in the rough.
Trainer strikes out, and for Garcia, that's his first. New homestand begins for the Royals on Tuesday. Arizona Diamondbacks are in town. It's a throwback to the 80s night. Retro night features $7 Hy-Vee infield ticket prices, $2 hot dogs, peanuts, and small Pepsis. And the first 10,000 fans receive a Retro Royals t-shirt presented by Pepsi. That's Tuesday night. Diamondbacks for 3, and then next weekend the Chicago Cubs are in town. Chris Getz, 3 hits, 3 runs scored. And if you break him down, hitting at night versus hitting during the day, for whatever reason he hits .352 during day games, and that average will go up as he has his 4th hit of the series And for the second straight inning, the Royals have a runner at first with one out.
Yeah, we've seen Chris make the adjustment on a lot of good pitchers, especially in these day games. Here he does, just serves it into right field, just like he does. Anytime you get the ball up against a hitter like Chris Getz, he's going to take advantage of it.
And now the guy who's been swinging the magic wand all road trip, Alcides Escobar, left Kansas City after the last homestand, hitting .212. He stands in right now at .250. He hit .235 last year for the Brewers.
I think we may have Chris Getz wanting to play all day games and Alcides Escobar wanting to play all road games.
I mean, he's turned his season around just because of one road trip. 1 ball and 1 strike. I mean, we're late enough into the season now where you just don't add points like that to your batting average unless you do something remarkable, which is what Escobar has been. I mean, the more realistic approach would be, if he's going to add that many points to his batting average, it might take 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, all the multiple hit games obviously are going to help him a lot, and if he can keep that going, he's going to get right up to that average that I'm sure that everyone would like to see him stay at.
Garcia taking his time, staring down Chris Getz. In 8 games on this road trip, Escobar has 7 multi-hit games. 4 out of 8 in this weekend series, including a 2-run triple. Escobar did that in the second inning yesterday. Now Chris Getz running. Molina, one of the best arms in the National League, but he doesn't get Chris Getz, who has his 10th stolen base.
Chris may be going first move here against Jaime Garcia, the left-hander. Not a chance to throw him out.
Royals have 4 base stealers that have 9 or more stolen bases. And now the ball gets away from Molina. So the tying runs at third base with 1 out. That has scored a wild pitch. Three balls and 1 strike on Escobar. Now the infield comes in. That is a Tony La Russa trademark. Many times he'll have the infield in halfway, but as the pitcher goes into his motion, the infield comes all the way in. And so Garcia, realizing that Escobar is swinging the bat well, happy to pitch around him and then deal to Danny Duffy. This will be Duffy's first major league at bat. Duffy going to try and lay down a bunt, get Escobar to second base, and Chris Getz, with his speed, if the bunt is placed in a spot where Getz can make a move down from third, Royals might try for a safety squeeze.
Great opportunity here for Danny Duffy to help his cause. If he doesn't get a run in, at least maybe get another runner in scoring position, get Alcides Escobar to second base.
Just to make sure they're on the same page with the signs, Eddie Rodriguez actually called for that meeting in between third base and home. That was a throw to first called by Yadier Molina, sticking his thumb out as opposed to one of his fingers for a sign. And Duffy tried to bunt and he missed.
Sure, a lot going through Danny Duffy's head here. First time standing in the batter's box in a major league game, trying to get a bunt down against a tough pitcher. little undecided there.
I've heard of a one-handed swing. I don't know if I've ever seen a one-handed bunt. And down he goes.
We're going to have to work on that one.
So 2 strikeouts for Garcia in the inning, and now he'll get Alex Gordon with runners at first and third. Alex grounded out to second in the first inning today. Last night in the 7th inning with 2 outs against Jake Westbrook. Alex hit his 8th home run of the year.
Yeah, getting a little late in the game. Jake Westbrook had really settled down on this pitch. Alex Gordon did not let him get away with the mistake.
Escobar has 12 stolen bases. I was talking about the Royals having 4 or more base stealers with 9 or more this year. The Royals lead the league in stolen bases, but they don't have a league leader individual. Stolen bases have really been spread out well up and down the lineup. There's a strike to Alex. The league leader for a long time, even though he hasn't been with the Royals for a while, was Gerard Dyson. Now Chris Getz and Escobar have passed him. Escobar has 12. Getz has 10. Melky Cabrera has 9. Jeff Francoeur has 9, which is a new career high for him. In the dirt, and what a save by Molina.
Molina just so solid behind the plate. Runner on third, big situation. That's a tough pitch to block, too. The ones that hit so far in front of the plate are more difficult than the ones that are right in front of the catcher.
Saved again. 2 balls, 1 strike. Yadier Molina coming from a catching family. Older brothers Jose and Benji. Yadier has won 3 Gold Gloves. Most recent was last year. And Alex lines it to right field and ties the game. So Alex has been on base every game of this road trip. That is his 8th RBI on the trip.
Garcia had been so careful with Alex up to this point, and he gets a fastball up and out of the plate. Alex doesn't waste that opportunity to drive in a run.
And that gets us to Melky Cabrera, who scored the Royals' first run in the first. Strike from Garcia. Melky reached on an error by third baseman Descalzo. A difficult play. Descalzo was playing deep and was charging onto the grass for a slow roller. Was able to field the ball, but going from glove to throwing hand, dropped it. It very easily could have been ruled a hit. Official scorer called it an error. That's past Garcia and backhanded by Cosma, who is on the left side of second base, and throws out Melky, but the Royals tie the game at 2. Jaime Garcia will lead off for the Cardinals. We'll see what he can do with the bat. We know what these guys can do with the bat. Our sprint you call it question. Who do you think is the Cardinals MVP so far this year? Albert Pujols, Matt Holliday, or the newest Cardinal Lance Berkman, who is not in the lineup today? Text 432-432, enter keyword Royals followed by a space. Pujols 16 home runs, Holliday 8 home runs. He's been on the DL hitting .354, and Lance Berkman, who I would think right now would be more than a Cardinals MVP. He might be a National League MVP candidate.
He's been a great surprise for the St. Louis Cardinals this year.
Jaime Garcia. Two balls, 1 strike. As a hitter, he is just 2 out of 29. He has driven in a run. He has struck out 9 times. Two and two. He doesn't look like a pitcher at the plate. He's got a nice balanced stance, slightly open stance. And he works the count full. 3 balls and 2 strikes.
I'm sure this is not what Danny Duffy had in mind when he saw him coming up to the plate. Hopefully get a quick inning, starting off with a quick at bat against the pitcher.
And didn't mess around with the 3-2 pitch and got him with a fastball at 94. And Danny has struck out 3 today. I want to remind you, with every home run hit today, $22,000 will be raised in the Home Run Challenge for prostate cancer research. You can make a pledge by calling 800-798-CURE or go online at pcf.org. Pete Kozma is the number 9 hitter. So Tony La Russa now in back-to-back games batting his pitcher 8th. Kozma appears in this series for the first time. Royals saw him in Kansas City last month. He had since been sent down to the minor leagues and recalled before the game yesterday. This is the Cardinals' first-round draft pick in 07 out of Oklahoma, Owassa, Oklahoma, 15 miles north of Tulsa. He was going to go to Wichita State before the Cardinals took him in the first round, and he goes down on strikes. 2 up, 2 down, both with strikeouts, and that's 4 for Duffy.
Danny Duffy just taking charge here with this at bat, going right at him. Nice fastball.
Royals scored in the top of the first inning on Billy Butler's double. And the Cardinals got 2 in the bottom of the first. Andrew Brown driving in 2 with 2 outs, and then the Royals tied it in the second on Alex Gordon's RBI. So 3 of the 4 total runs today have been scored with 2 outs. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Yeah, look at this. The second time through. Interesting to see how he's going to approach. It seems like he's been much more aggressive here in these last 2 batters.
And he drops a curveball in for a strike, trying to make up, I'm sure Duffy is, in the second inning for a 28 pitch first inning. Still 1-2. The positives for Danny Duffy since being called up: he has allowed 3 earned runs or less in 5 of his 6 starts, and obviously the great arm. He also has not walked, or he has walked fewer than 3 only 1 time in 6 starts. Long run for Getz, and even if he comes up with it cleanly, Terrio with enough speed to beat it out, so that'll be an infield single, and the Cardinals have a runner with 2 outs.
Here Terrio takes the inside pitch, goes the other way with it. Had a shift on, so it wasn't an opportunity for Chris Getz to make a play on this ground ball.
And now Colby Rasmus, and the Royals have really pitched him well this year. Rasmus is 1 out of 14 against the Royals this season. Terrio, the leadoff man, but not a huge threat to run. 4 stolen bases, and he's been thrown out 3 times. Rasmus takes a curveball down and away. Cardinals first round pick in 05. He was their minor league player of the year in 06 and considered by most as their top prospect in 06, 07, and 08. So the expectations were great when Colby Rasmus got to the big leagues. Trying to think of the last time the Royals had a prospect that was considered the top prospect for 3 consecutive years. 3 balls and no strikes from Duffy to Colby Rasmus.
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Cardinals have been a team that's been pretty solidified at the major league level. They haven't been moving guys through, so it takes these players oftentimes longer to get to the big leagues than it does when you're an organization like the Royals moving guys through.
3-1. Rasmus also taken out of high school, so as you pointed out, in the farm system longer, so he could be their top prospect for 3 years. Of course, what the publications believe is the Cardinals' top prospect might not exactly be what the Cardinals regarded as their top prospect.
Right. Oftentimes it depends on who that player is ahead of you at the major league level, how fast you're going to progress. I hope the Cardinals didn't have a first baseman who was their #1 prospect over the last several years with Albert Pujols.
Right. We barely see the light of day. Three balls, 2 strikes. Duffy trying to come back from 3-0 against Rasmus. And now Terrio will be running on the next pitch. Speaking of Albert Pujols, he waits on deck. So we will say it once again. This is a big out with Pujols on deck. And Duffy gets the out. He strikes out the side, and he has 5 today. Royals baseball is brought to you by Kia Motors. To learn more, visit kia.com. Final game of the I-70 series, and the first 2 games have been 1-run games. The last 3 games have been 1-run games. All 3 games of this series also raising funds and awareness for disaster relief in Joplin, Missouri. Both teams wearing the commemorative Teams Unite for Joplin jersey patches. You have an opportunity to also help support the Joplin relief effort by purchasing these commemorative patches for $10 online at royals.com/Joplin or at Kauffman Stadium beginning on Tuesday. All proceeds will benefit Joplin relief efforts. So tied at 2, Billy Butler leads off. He drove in a run in the first inning with a double. And that extended his streak of 129 consecutive series with at least 1 hit. This series he's had to do it the hard way, coming off the bench in the first 2 games. On the ground, well hit, but right at Terrio, and there's 1 out in the 3rd inning. Cardinals really needed their pitching staff to step up. Guys like Jaime Garcia, who last year won 13 games in his first full season in the big leagues. And when Adam Wainwright went down in spring training with Tommy John surgery, man, that really changed the complexion of their rotation. As Francoeur gets 1 up the middle, and he's 1 for 2. That puts an end to an 0 for 8. For a while, the Cardinals thought they were going to have Wainwright, Carpenter, Westbrook, and Garcia.
Jeff Francoeur struggled a little bit in interleague play, but he likes this pitch, takes it up the middle for a base hit. Ryan, I agree. I think it's amazing what the Cardinals have been able to do when they have a pitcher like Adam Wainwright go down. You know, still looking at the standings, only 1 game back from the Milwaukee Brewers, so they're able to hang right in there.
Put an end to a 7-game losing streak last night, getting 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th. Royals won game 1, 5-4. Betamit grounded out to 3rd, first time up. Curveball is flipped in for a strike. 0-1. Royals with 2 runs, 4 hits so far. 4th in the league in hitting. 1st in the league in stolen bases, and Chris Getz swiped second base and came around to score in the 2nd. Francoeur at first has a new career high already this year, and there he goes, and no chance for Molina as that pitch didn't even reach home plate. So the Royals are running on Garcia, and Francoeur adds to his career high. That is 10. In fact, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, he's been great. Doug Sisson has obviously got something on these pitchers' moves because they can go on first move and not even close to second base.
It's interesting. Jeff Francoeur and Doug Sisson, in a respectful way, butted heads in spring training as the Royals were trying to get the team to be more aggressive. Stretch singles into doubles, doubles into triples, really working on going first to third on base hits, ramping up the running game as far as stolen bases. And Ned Yost made it clear early in spring training that stolen bases weren't going to be for just the so-called burners, which is baseball code for a guy with great speed. Everybody was going to run, and Francoeur, who's hardly run at all in his career, kind of shook his head but just went along with it. And before spring training was over, he was sold. Strikeout for Garcia, his 3rd today, so Francoeur is at second with 2 outs.
Oftentimes you'll see teams work on different aspects of the game in spring training. The season starts and it just kind of is like something never happened. But the Royals have really carried it into the season, and I think that's been one big reason they've been able to stay on top of it. They work on it early every day.
Garcia struck out Matt Trainer in the 2nd inning. A little bit inside, 1 ball and no strikes.
Here we are yesterday. Matt Trainer against Jake Westbrook in the 4th inning. Got a nice pitch to handle, drives it into the Royals bullpen.
Jake Westbrook, like Jaime Garcia, doesn't give up many home runs, but the Royals hit 2 off of Westbrook yesterday. Trainer in the 4th, Alex Gordon in the 7th. There's Westbrook, who gave up 4 runs in 7 innings. Ended up with a no decision. Jason Mott, coming out of the bullpen, was the winner. Well, that pitch almost exactly where the first pitch was, but this time called a strike by home plate umpire Ed Hickox.
Yesterday, 2 fairly comparable pitchers with Vin Mazzaro and Jake Westbrook. Today, 2 lefties in Jaime Garcia and Danny Duffy. Similar type stuff.
Fouled away, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Danny Duffy with more ability to overpower a hitter, but Jaime Garcia has that deception that creates a lot of difficulty for hitters.
Garcia has that good changeup, and he strikes out Trainer for the 2nd time, and that's 4 for Garcia in the 3rd. Danny Duffy has allowed 2 runs. Jaime Garcia has allowed 2 runs. Here's how they compare in the Time Warner Cable wideband internet pitch speeds. Duffy at 96, Garcia at 93. Every Wednesday at Kauffman Stadium is Ink Student Night and Local Music Showcase. You'll get a $7 game ticket, pre-game happy hour specials, and enjoy one of KC's best bands. This Wednesday against the Arizona Diamondbacks, Ink Local Music Showcase will feature Hearts of Darkness. Wednesday night at 7:10. Albert Pujols, Matt Holliday, and Yadier Molina. Pujols hasn't punished the Royals this year as he has in years past. But still, if you have to face him, you'd rather face him with nobody on. And we've said so many times in this series in particular how big it is with 2 outs to get the number 2 hitter and make Pujols come up with nobody on base in the following inning. Pujols singled and scored in the first. 3 balls and no strikes.
Ryan, coming into today's game, Albert Pujols was leading the Cardinals with 75 base hits.
16 of those home runs, which is the 5th most in the National League. Swinging on 3-0. Wasn't a very good pitch, but got the feeling Albert wasn't interested in walking here.
One swing of the bat can put a run on the board for this guy.
And that's lined to right field. Joe Pujols is 2 for 2. Our Sprint You Call It question today: who is the Cardinals MVP so far? 52% going with Lance Berkman, which is a good pick. Surprisingly, and maybe not so much when you look at the numbers, that Albert Pujols at just 20%. Today is a carsoup.com email the booth day, and let's go to Joel.
Well, a few questions, guys. Paul Gieringer from Marshall, Missouri wants to know why the Royals are not wearing their blue day game road jerseys, and they've got the United for Joplin patches on. So those were on the grays, and they'll wear those all weekend. Tough to kind of remove those patches and put them on other jerseys, I guess. So that's the deal with that. Here's one for Monty from Aaron Friend, Buckner, Missouri. Is there a scouting report on umpires? How helpful would that be for the pitcher and the hitter?
Normally not. Sometimes the umpire strike zone seems to vary day by day, but they're fairly consistent. You kind of know just from feel, but sometimes it's based on your stuff too. If you're a guy who's up in the strike zone a lot, you won't get calls from certain umpires. Certain umpires will give it to you.
I know
Ed Hickox is the home plate umpire today. Sorry, Joel.
No, sorry, Ryan. I know one thing that you will see in all clubhouses is bios of all the umpires, just so the guys see the faces and know exactly who they're dealing with.
Yeah, for instance, if a guy enjoys, ice fishing during the off season, you can talk about ice fishing with him and so on and so forth.
There was one pitcher's umpire, Mark Hirschback, that everyone loved to throw to. He would give you at least a ball or two off the plate.
He was big into ice fishing too, right, Ryan?
He was. Ed Hickox would be an interesting guy to talk to. Not much time to talk to him since he's working the plate. But in addition to being a major league umpire, he is also a sworn police officer in Florida. And in the past, during the offseason, he worked as a detective with Daytona Beach Shores Police Department.
If he's ever on the same crew with Ted Barrett, we want to back away from those guys.
I would agree.
Guys, here's another interesting one from Chris Hansford, Denison, Kansas. A good question with interleague and the DH. What would happen to Billy Butler if you were to remove the DH from the American League? I don't think that the DH is going to be removed from the American League, but don't you think, somebody's still going to want his bat?
Yeah, I think he would find a place to hit it. Anybody can have a consistent year after year, 300 batting average, does a lot with bat, occasional power. I mean, he's a guy that teams will find a way to make room for a Billy Butler.
That's 6 strikeouts for Danny Duffy, and the second time he's gotten Matt Holliday. So 1 on 1 out, and now Yadier Molina. He walked in the first inning. And that pitch is way outside. He walked with 2 outs and 2 on, which didn't look like a bad move at the time. Molina hitting over 300. And behind him was rookie Andrew Brown, who was just 1 out of 9. So the bases were loaded for Brown, but he came through with a 2-run single. One of those moves in retrospect, though, if you're going to force one of the Cardinals to beat you in this inning, I'd rather have Andrew Brown beat me than a more proven hitter like Yadier Molina.
You know, Molina's having a great season, so you not necessarily pitch around him, but make the next guy beat you.
1 ball, 1 strike. Any other questions, Joel?
I got one more for you if you so care.
Absolutely.
Matt Thompson, Lee's Summit, says, was interleague play created simply to interest more fans? Do players seem to enjoy it? What do you guys think?
Do you enjoy it, Monty?
You know, I liked it a lot more early on. I think it's lost a little of its flavor, but sure, a great opportunity for fans in different parts of the country see other teams they ordinarily wouldn't have a chance.
I believe, Joel, and you follow the other sports better than I do, but obviously every other sport has, quote, interleague play. In the NFL and the NBA and the NHL, everybody plays everybody. Baseball was the only sport where, aside from spring training and the World Series, the 2 leagues were completely separate. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously been a lot of crossover, and of course nowadays with free agency and the way players move around, it seems like everybody knows everybody anyway. I mean, I think originally it wasn't the point to try to get some of the best players in the other league to parks where you had a chance to showcase guys if you didn't have a chance to see a Ken Griffey Jr. or a Barry Bonds or someone like that. But now it seems like you could go 5-6 years, if not more, seeing a certain team. I mean, the Cubs haven't been to Kauffman Stadium since, what, 2000? So if the intent was to showcase some of these teams, it hasn't happened maybe as frequently as we thought it would.
I think all in all, interleague play has been a good thing. There have been arguments of how much or how little we should see of the National League during the regular season.
With the season being so long, it's nice to have a little break point here and there where you do change things up. It's a good break for everyone. I mean, the fans, it's good for the players, everyone.
If you think about it, though, I guess interleague play would have been best used prior to television, because that's when you really didn't get a chance to see the players from the other league. You would just read about them. And before interleague play, a lot of games were on TV. So even if you didn't see players in person, well, you knew what Albert Pujols looked like, and you knew what Matt Holliday looked like, and Barry Bonds, all the stars from the National League, just on the highlights, as opposed to maybe a picture here and there in the weekly or monthly magazines.
Yeah, good point.
Pujols at first base with a leadoff single. Then Duffy struck out Holliday, and Duffy already has 6 strikeouts. And another foul ball. Here's a look at today's league leaders, brought to you by your Kansas City area Toyota dealers. Most starts by rookie left-hand pitchers this year. Zach Britton, a 6-game winner for the Baltimore Orioles. And Danny Duffy, who is making his 7th today. And then Mike Minor, who has 5 for the Atlanta Braves. So the point of that graphic is there aren't many. Molina strikes out. That is 7 for Danny Duffy. 2 down in the 3rd inning.
That's a new career high in strikeouts for Danny Duffy as well. Molina had seen a lot of pitches. He decided to just go with the fastball really pretty much in the middle of the plate, but throw it by him.
Previous career high was 6, and that was in his 2nd big league start against the Orioles. So now 7, and he's done it in just 2 2/3 innings.
If I'm not mistaken, that may have been a start against Zach Britton. I think he started against him in that game in Baltimore.
Well, we'll go to the book. Andrew Brown, a 2-run single in the 1st. Duffy's season high, if you include AAA, he had a 9 strikeout game at Albuquerque. A couple of starts before being called up to the Royals.
I think the thing we're seeing today is we're seeing him put away hitters with 2 strikes. In his previous starts, he would let hitters get back into counts and not be able to put them away.
And Monty, it was Danny Duffy and Zach Britton back on May the 24th. 2 balls, 2 strikes. So 7 strikeouts, but 70 pitches in fewer than 30 innings. And it seems after every start, Danny Duffy points out whether he wins, loses, pitches well, or otherwise, mentions that he wants to go deeper into games. 8 strikeouts. He adds to his career high. So at the end of 3, we're tied at 2. Tied at 2 as we go to the 4th inning in St. Louis. Royals Charities is hosting a special online auction featuring commemorative Teams Unite for Joplin game used equipment from this Royals Cardinals series, signed and featuring the commemorative logo. The auction includes items such as game used bases. You can bid now at royals.com/Joplin. Garcia with a strike to Chris Getz. He singled with 1 out in the 2nd inning, stole his 10th base, scored on an Alex Gordon base hit that tied the game at 2. Royals scored in the top of the 1st, Cardinals with 2 in the bottom of the 1st, and then the Royals tying it in the 2nd. It has been a big strikeout game so far. Danny Duffy has 8 in 3 innings. Jaime Garcia has 4 in his 3 innings. Grounded to Pujols. Pujols had an errorless game last night. Prior to that, he had 4 errors in 4 games, including the error that led to the Royals' victory on Friday night. Sundays on Fox Sports Kansas City, join Tom Brokaw for Boys in the Hall, the personal stories of some of baseball's greatest legends. This week, it's Kansas City's own Buck O'Neil. Boys in the Hall presented by Subway, where winners eat. That comes up tonight after Royals baseball here on Fox Sports Kansas City. Alcides Escobar on base with a walk in the 2nd inning. Two balls and no strikes. Garcia really has good movement on his fastball. Not as much sink as it is just ride. Almost like a backward slider.
Yeah, he throws that 2-seamer. It really does back up.
Up the right field line and foul. Still 3 balls and 2 strikes on Alcides Escobar, with Danny Duffy waiting on deck.
That late life and movement we see, that really adds to his effectiveness, gives him the ability to get guys out with pitches that are around 90 miles an hour a lot of times when he throws that 2-seam fastball.
And line caught on a running play by Cosma. So that's what it takes these days to keep Alcides Escobar from a hit.
At some point, all these great plays that Alcides Escobar makes are going to come back and haunt him, like right here, getting a hit taken away from him. Nice diving catch.
So Cosma filling in at 2nd base for Skip Schumacher, who gets a day off, makes a nice play, and now Danny Duffy, who tried to bunt 3 times in the 2nd inning and struck out. Here's today's AT&T trivia question. Who is the Royals' all-time home run leader against the Cardinals? The Royals' all-time home run leader against the Cardinals. Duffy strikes out for a second time, so you can ponder that as we go to the bottom of the 4th inning in a 2-2 tie. Bottom of the 4th inning in a 2-2 tie. And let's answer our AT&T trivia question. There's a hint. Who is the Royals' all-time home run leader against the Cardinals? It is Alex Gordon, who has 6. And he hit his 6th last night in the 7th inning off of Jake Westbrook. At some point, we expect Alex to turn around. And when he does, Danny Duffy will go back to work, and we go into the stands and find Joel Goldberg.
All right, well, joined right now by Hal Coleman, and actually we got a lot of the parents around here. Chris Getz, his dad, is over here as well. But of course, we've seen Hal Coleman before. He didn't know that we were doing this, but now it's become sort of famous, the punch out. We're watching it right now. I apologize, but it has been good TV, and that was a fun, emotional day.
It was. It was. It was. I've just been doing that forever, and I had no idea that you were watching. I'll try to behave better.
Well, I thought it was a priceless reaction, one that a dad should have. Happy Father's Day, by the way. How about to be able to spend Father's Day and the weekend with your son, not too far from home either?
Pretty neat, pretty neat. This is as close as we get. It's about 6 hours from home, but glad to be with my boy.
And for him to be able to make it, I mean, I know what a career he had at LSU, but he's told us the story that he was out there the first time he was drafted, baling hay, didn't even know about it. He's come a long ways, hasn't he?
He has, and he's very appreciative of the opportunity, and we hope he stays here a long time.
Yeah, we hope he stays here a long time as well. It's been neat to see the small-town kid go to New York for the first time, experience the bigger cities for the first time. How about to sit at home and watch him on a regular basis?
It's nerve-wracking. It's hard to enjoy the game sometimes. I mean, we watch, it's fine, and then he comes in and my blood pressure goes up. Boom. But maybe we'll do a little better with that.
Well, it's all part of being a dad and rooting it on. And you were telling me last night we were talking, and you just alluded to it right now, that you've always been punching those guys out like that. So that was normal.
Yeah. I've been doing that for a long time. I coached him until he was 14, 15, and then I had to let it go. But Daddy still wants to coach some.
Well, now you know that the camera's always watching, but I don't want you to hold back to him. And if he gets in the game later, I can't promise you it will or won't be watching, but you need to punch somebody out, go ahead and do it.
Well, just don't put it on me if he gives up a home run, because it won't be pretty.
Hal, we appreciate the time. Happy Father's Day. Glad you're able to spend it with Lewis and the family here as well. Continued success to your son.
Thank you very much.
All right, that is Hal Coleman, who I saw guys last night, and he said, when are you going to stop running that? And I thought, well, I'm probably going to keep running it again, including on Father's Day. Guys, back to you.
Nothing wrong with that. That was a lot of fun.
Right, it reminds me, my father used to come to games, and he would actually find a column and sit behind it, so he wouldn't actually see me. He would just see the batter. And I don't know that he was superstitious about it. I guess the nerves really take over when you're a dad watching your son play in the big leagues.
I would imagine. I mean, it's one thing to watch T-ball and Little League when, for the most part, the kids are just supposed to be out there having a good time, and then you move on to high school. There's a little more pressure, college, but once you get to the biggest stage, the highest level, there's your dad, I'm sure, watching Major League Baseball and admiring all the players that he did, and all of a sudden you're on the same level as those guys.
And I always knew he was there. I just didn't know where. I couldn't see him either.
3 balls and 2 strikes on Jaime Garcia. 9 strikeouts for Danny Duffy. And on this Father's Day, Sarah brought Micah up here to the booth, who's more interested in having a pretzel right now than he is being up here in the booth. Still 3 balls and 2 strikes. Can you say hi? Hi. And next year we'll be celebrating this Father's Day. Hi, buddy. Clap. Of course, he doesn't perform on demand. He knows he's on TV. He knows he has an audience. Thank you for that, guys. fouled away by Garcia. Still 3 balls and 2 strikes.
Second at bat now that Garcia's gone 3-2 against Danny Duffy, really putting a dent in his pitch count.
Duffy has struck out 7 of the last 9. 2 strikeouts in the first, struck out the side in the second and in the third, and now for the first out in the fourth. And that's hit hard. Fielded by Escobar, and we pointed out when Garcia batted in the second inning that he doesn't look like a pitcher when he stands at the plate, and put a pretty good swing on a Duffy pitch there, and there are 2 down.
When you're out on the mound and the batter's fouling off pitches, and then he ends up grounding out like that, you're wishing he would have just done it on the first pitch.
And now Pete Kozma, who struck out looking in the second inning. Kozma is 0 for his last 8. Popped up off of first, and Billy Butler will run out of room. 1 ball, 1 strike. Duffy is trying to have his shortest inning as far as pitches go. He has not had an inning yet with fewer than 20 pitches, so it's been impressive what he's done against the Cardinals. Remember, this team leads their league in hitting, second in the league in runs scored, and he has struck out 9 in fewer than 4 innings. But he is fastly approaching 90 pitches.
His last outing he went over 100 pitches for the first time, and if he's going to get 6 innings under his belt today, he certainly is going to be right in that range again.
6 innings on Tuesday at Oakland. The second time he has gone 6 innings for the Royals this year. If you add up what he has done with the Royals and at AAA, he has not gone more than 6 innings yet, and that is 13 appearances. 3 balls and 1 strike now on Kozma. And he gets around on a fastball that was in on his hands. So Duffy making sure that he throws a strike on 3-1. And the Cardinals come up with their 6th hit.
3-1 pitch. He's only walked 1 batter day, so he's going to go right at him. Gets his ball up and in a little bit. Kozma able to do exactly what he wants, move it into left field line drive for a single.
Well, Matt Trainer went out to the mound and he looked to the dugout, and Nick Kenny, Royals trainer, went over to talk to Ned Yost. Lewis Coleman throwing in the bullpen, throwing quickly, and if for some reason Danny Duffy had to come out here, Coleman would have all the time he needed to warm up, but that may have been something initiated by Matt Trainer.
Danny Duffy didn't appear to be in any kind of pain or any kind of unusual position, but apparently they're going to go.
And Ned Yost, you could see him talk to Ed Hickox first and clarify that this would be an injury replacement here. So Coleman is still throwing in the bullpen as if he needs to catch up on his warm-up tosses, but he'll get as many pitches as he needs once he gets to the mound. So unfortunately for the Royals, it's a Chevy call to the bullpen with 2 outs in the 4th inning. Well, I'm sure it's some concern that Danny Duffy had to come out with an injury with 2 outs in the 4th inning, but how concerned are you going to be? He strikes out 9 in 3 2/3, so we'll call him today's Jaguar Performance Player of the Game. Nine strikeouts, a new career high for him in his second big league start. Duffy struck out 6, so he blew by that, and he did it early today, striking out his 6th in the 3rd inning. And And he ends up striking out 7 of the final 10 batters that he faces.
Right, I think the key for him today was limiting the walks. Only 1 base on balls for him today, a good sign moving forward for Danny Duffy.
He was getting to the end of the rope as it was with 90 pitches. So Lewis Coleman may have been warming up before the Royals saw that there was anything wrong with Danny Duffy. But who would have thought that Duffy would have thrown 90 pitches in 3 2/3 innings and only have 1 walk?
And he may have been on a pitch count today going in after going over 100 pitches for the first time in Oakland. We're not sure, but sure didn't look like anything was wrong with him, but obviously the trainers came out, so there was something.
Now 2 balls and no strikes to Ryan Theriot. So Lewis Coleman's father, as he put it, the heart rate goes up now that Coleman is in the game. And that'll be a pass ball. Charge to Matt Trainer right off with a glove, and it allows Cosma to move up to second base. Cosma was the last batter that Danny Duffy faced, and here's a pitch to Cosma. Let's watch Duffy.
It looked like he looked down maybe his foot or toe or something. Yeah.
Well, you're trying to think if you were to do something like that, maybe something in the knee or maybe a hamstring.
Well, it looked more like lower, portion to me, maybe his ankle or his foot even.
Center field, easy play for Melky Cabrera. So Coleman gets the final out of the 4th inning, and at the end of 4, we're still tied at 2. Well, this is Danny Duffy finishing up the bottom of the 4th inning, and we hope, Monty, that you're right. You were just saying off air that watching him throw a few pitches there and the way he's reacting on the mound, that maybe it was just a leg cramp.
Well, for a left-handed pitcher pushing off that left side, I know oftentimes it creates some extra, pressure, and I wouldn't be surprised. I've had cramps before when throwing in my right calf, and it looked like he was maybe trying to shake something off on the calf area.
And the Royals didn't appear to be too concerned and didn't spend a whole lot of time with him in the dugout once he came out of the game. And so Lewis Coleman got the final out of the bottom of the 4th inning.
Being a hot day as well, so cramps are oftentimes an issue on hot days like this.
And correct me if I'm wrong, that when a pitcher has a cramp in a leg, you're not so much concerned about the leg getting any worse, but maybe altering his mechanics and hurting his arm because he's over adjusting because of the cramp.
Well, you have a chance of injuring something different, and you also are going to lose the ability to drive off that backside. If you can't drive off the backside, you're going to get hit around and bad things happen.
Well, he had good drive today. Danny Duffy has to come out early, but a career high 9 strikeouts in 3 2/3 innings. Unfortunately, because of the cramp, Royals have to go to the bullpen in the 4th inning. Top of the order for the Royals, Gordon, Cabrera, and Butler. And Alex into center field. Colby Rasmus in about the same spot where Melky Cabrera recorded the final out in the bottom of the 4th. And Alex is 1 for 3. Once again, Royals Charities is hosting a special online auction featuring commemorative Teams Unite for Joplin game used equipment from this series, signed and featuring the commemorative logo. The auction includes items such as home plate. You can bid now for that and other items at royals.com/Joplin. And now Melky goes after the first pitch. Theriot is out, Holliday is in, and Matt Holliday retires Cabrera. Melky is 0 for 3 with a run scored. So the next homestand for the Royals begins on Tuesday after an off day tomorrow, and the Chicago Cubs come to Kansas City beginning on Friday through Sunday afternoon, and great tickets are still available. They will go fast as we get closer to that series, so call 816-504-4040 or 1-800-6-ROYALS for those tickets. You can also go online at royals.com. 2 down to Billy Butler, who drove in a run with a double in the first inning and then grounded out sharply to the shortstop Terrio in the third. Oh, 2. Jaime Garcia, 73 pitches and 4 2/3 innings. Billy lays off that curveball, 1-2.
Third time now through the order for the Royals. He's starting to use that over the top, that 12-6 curveball a little bit more.
2 balls, 2 strikes. 1 walk, 5 strikeouts for Garcia. Only 1 time all year as he had more than 2 walks in a start. And the count goes from 0-2 to 3-2. Garcia lately has had his troubles pitching deep into games. He has not gone more than 6 innings in 4 of his last 5 starts. Good shape today as far as pitch count goes, but this inning will go a little longer as Billy Butler picks up his second hit of the day. And a runner at first with 2 outs for the Royals.
Here Billy works the count to 3-2. He knows he's going to get something in the strike zone ahead. He gets a fastball up and drives it to left field.
And that gets us to Jeff Francoeur, who homered against Jaime Garcia back in Kansas City last month. He is 1 for 2 today with a single.
This was the last batter that Garcia faced in that game in Kansas City. Jeff Francoeur going the other way with 1 out of the ballpark.
That made the score 7-2, St. Louis leading. 1 ball, 1 strike on Francoeur, and as we were telling you earlier, the Cardinals thought they had that game won. A 7-1 lead in the 4th, and then Tony La Russa took out Alan Craig. He took out Matt Holliday early. He took Garcia out in the 6th after that home run to Francoeur, and the Royals rallied back and tied the game in the 7th. Slow roller to Pujols. He'll go to the bag himself. Francoeur is out, and so are the Royals in the 5th inning.
Welcome back to Busch Stadium, all tied up at 2 apiece. A shot of Nate Adcock out in the Royals bullpen, and back here in the family section and visiting right now with John Adcock, Nate's dad, and nice 3.5 hour drive from Kentucky over to see your son. Happy Father's Day. What's it like to be able to share this with him?
It's a very proud moment to be here, and I feel very blessed to be here with the family and be able to see Nate this weekend.
So a chance to spend some important time, and how about how quickly things can turn in 1 year?
It's amazing. Like I was telling you earlier, you know, this time last year we were in the Florida State League All-Star game, and now here we are in Busch Stadium a year later. It's really amazing.
Attendance in the Florida State League for games, what, 3 digits?
3 digits. You make it 700 or 800 on a good night, and here we are with 40,000 plus. So
amazing. Yeah, and so a chance to see Nate, and how about what he's been able to do this year? I mean, he's really looked comfortable jumping from A ball. I know he's a Rule 5, but from A ball to the big league level, he seems to fit right in.
Yeah, he's doing really well, and I think that's one of the things that about Nathan is that. Uh-oh.
That's foul. We're all right.
All right.
We can calm Hal Coleman down in front of us here. He's got more nerves than you right now, I guess, right?
That's right. But he likes to compete. He always, you know, likes to deal with pressure pretty well.
He seemed very comfortable at this level. How about the chance to coach him, teach him as a kid? What was Nate like as a kid?
It was a lot of fun to coach, but he was a type kid that if it ever got to a close ball game and if he was playing first base and not pitching, he'd always bug me. He said, "Dad, let me finish this game for you," or something like that, because he was very competitive and would always want the ball.
Lobbying Dad for extra playing time.
Extra playing time.
All right, well, how about for you when he gets into these games? How are your nerves?
I tell you, it's it gets kind of stressful watching it, but my wife and I, a lot of times I sit back and watch the games at home, and it's exciting, but also very nerve-wracking as well.
Well, glad you're having a chance to spend the time together with your son. John, happy Father's Day.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. You can kind of see, guys, you know, these kids, we've talked about them so much, how polite they are, and you see where it comes from the parents. By the way, I do want to report to you that I was asking Hal about his nerves a little while ago, and I think he said to me, I think I might throw up. Guys, back to you.
Well, his son might throw up because Albert Pujols just gave him the death stare after taking a pitch up and in.
I thought the pitch hit him. Sure, this one just got away a little bit. Albert didn't like that.
And if the stare wasn't enough, he might have had a word or two for Coleman. And now Lewis misses outside. 2 balls and no strikes. Pujols with 2 singles today. A run scored back in the first inning. 2 balls and 1 strike. Getting back to what Joel was saying, I don't know if there are 2 more polite young guys on the Royals roster than Lewis Coleman and Nate Adcock. And really, truth be told, I mean, just about every single young player the Royals have are not only good players, but really good guys to talk to, really seem to respect the game, respect their coaches. Something the Royals really work hard on with these guys when they are in the minor leagues.
Ryan, I had a chance to meet some of the minor league guys when I was in spring training camp this year, and I echo exactly what you say. They're all just true gentlemen. It's been a breath of fresh air to see these guys when they do make it to the big leagues, how well prepared they are and how good of guys they are.
That's one way Pujols can get back at Coleman. A line drive home run to left field. And Pujols for a moment stood and admired it before going into his home run trot.
Well, we don't know if that up and in pitch woke Albert Pujols up, but he sure didn't miss this pitch. Gets a little too much of the plate, and it's up in the strike zone. It allows him to get extended, and he enjoyed it as he hit it. That was a no-doubter.
Flipping his bat, what looked like in frustration. Maybe still mad about that pitch that Coleman threw up and in. Matt Holliday now lines out to left field. Well, as they say, you know, you don't want to wake up a sleeping dog, but if Coleman did that, that wasn't his intent. Just trying to pitch Albert Pujols inside, and came back with a pretty good couple of sliders after that.
Yeah, and he has to be inside to set up those sliders away. And if you notice all the pitches he threw early in the at bat, they were in, and finally he's able to go away.
Bedemeat and Trainer. And it's Bedemeat in foul ground to make the catch. The Cardinals take the lead on Pujols' 17th home run of the year. 3-2 Cardinals as we go to the 6th inning on Albert Pujols' home run. And with that home run, another $22,000 has been raised to support prostate cancer research. You can make a donation by calling 800-798-CURE or go online at PCF.org. And Monty, speaking of home runs,
since it's a 6th inning, it is our Sonic Slam inning. Our contestant is Bill Green from Bonner Springs, Kansas. If the Royals hit a home run this inning, Bill will win $2,600. But if the Royals hit a grand slam out of the park, Bill will win $25 grand from Sonic and the Kansas City Royals.
And Wilson Bedemeat will lead off. He has a home run in the past against Garcia. So Albert Pujols hits his first home run against the Royals this year. That is just his 2nd RBI against the Royals all season. Garcia, by the way, has allowed 4 home runs this year. And that would be over 92 innings. 92 innings, 4 home runs allowed. The home run that Wilson Betemit hit was last year. Jeff Francoeur homered against him this year at Kauffman Stadium. Two balls and no strikes. Matt Trainer will follow Betemit and then Chris Getz. Two and one. Royals scored a run in the first inning. It was an unearned run. Melky Cabrera on with an error. Billy Butler doubled him in. And then in the second inning, Alex Gordon with 2 outs drove in Chris Getz. Up the middle, and Cosmo was guarding the middle. A jump throw, and Pujols loses his glove. May have injured his right hand or his right wrist. So he is rolling around on the grass in front of the Cardinal dugout. And Betemit is safe to begin the inning. Boy, that could be a wrist, it could be a hand, it could be an elbow.
Looks like it might be his glove hand. So you got it jammed pretty good.
It looks like if anything it was bent inward, which is a lot better than getting bent outward.
Scary moment for Cardinals fans.
Well, actually spun around like the reach
By Cardinal trainer, and you can imagine the concern here in St. Louis. Everybody standing up on the first base side, hoping that Albert gets up, and in a lot of pain. He is not going to be able to stay in the game, and he is holding his wrist or his forearm. So right after hitting a home run with 1 out in the bottom of the 5th inning to put the Cardinals in front, he is out. That was scored, by the way, as an infield single for Wilson Betemit. And a bit of an ovation. This will help somewhat. You lose Pujols, but Lance Berkman, who was going to spend the day on the bench and get the day off, as it turns out, he gets 5 innings off, and he'll take over at first.
Not a bad replacement. Just for all that Albert Pujols means to the Cardinals and baseball, certainly hope that he's able to come back soon.
That's such a dangerous play for a first baseman, and especially for a right-hand throwing first baseman, because the glove for a right-hand thrower, the glove side, the left arm seems to end up on the baseline on plays like that. Wrist can be injured, elbows, shoulders, you name it. Another sacrifice bunt in the series for Matt Trainer, and that gets Betemit up to second base with 1 out. So Chris Getz, who has already singled today, stolen a base and scored a run. With runners in scoring position, Chris Getz' batting average is exactly 100 points better. So the scoreboard says there's a 248 hitter at the plate, but really there's a 348 hitter at the plate.
Just curious what it is in day games.
It was 352 before going 1 for 2. So this is the perfect storm right here. Runner in scoring position during the day, and Getz is one of the best in the American League at hitting during the day. Chris Getz's father, Art, sitting next to Hal Coleman. and in front of John Adcock. Still 0-2. It's interesting, Chris Getz, who is not a power hitter, is the Royals' best as far as average goes with runners in scoring position. The Cardinals' best is Ryan Theriot, their leadoff hitter, who is not a power hitter, more of a line drive type hitter. Frank was saying the other day that probably the biggest reason that Chris Getz has done so well in situations like this is he doesn't do, quote, too much. He just goes up there and tries to hit a line drive, where some hitters get caught up in the moment and they muscle up.
And Theriot having that those three guys hitting just behind him in the order, I'm sure he gets a lot of good pitches to drive.
Look at that, 186 at night, 361 during the day. Let's start playing some more day games.
Yeah, as I said earlier, he's going to want to play all day games.
He has fouled off 4 pitches in a row. Getz has scored 4 runs in this series. And he gets another base hit with runners in scoring position and during the day, as his father Art turns to Lewis Coleman's dad and says, "Did you see that?"
1 base hit for Father's Day. Only thing better is 2 base hits on Father's Day. They haven't played really nicely. Have a shift on in left field. Matt Holliday's in, but he finds some pay dirt just over third base.
So at 92 pitches, Jaime Garcia is out in the 6th inning. So a Chevy call to the bullpen, and it's Mitchell Boggs on the pitch for St. Louis. Royals have runners at first and third, and 1 out in the 6th inning, down by 1. Chris Getz getting a base hit against Jaime Garcia. So Tony La Russa brings on Mitchell Boggs to face Alcides Escobar. Another player out of the Cardinals system. 5th round pick in 05, Mitchell Boggs out of the University of Georgia. Escobar today has walked, and he is lined out to second base. Almost had his 5th hit of the series, if not for an excellent play by second baseman Pete Kozma running up the middle, and Boggs misses way inside for ball 1. So Jaime Garcia has his best start against the Royals. Can't say it was a great start. Gave up 2 runs, 1 run unearned. He's still responsible for Betemit and Getz, but he only goes 5 1/3 innings. So big day today for the bullpens. Cardinals bullpen takes over in the 6th. The Royals bullpen took over in the 4th. Danny Duffy had to come out after 2 outs, and what Monty thought might be the case, Duffy did leave with a cramp in his calf.
Yeah, and that's an issue that you have to deal with a lot of times in spring training with the heat and humidity.
A bunt, a safety squeeze. Nobody at first, and there was no play at the plate, and the Royals tie the game. It is a base hit and an RBI for Alcides Escobar.
Ryan, you really know things are going well when you get a base hit on a bunt, and there's nobody anywhere around. You get an RBI to boot.
You can tell by Molina's reaction there. He wanted that ball from Berkman. Don't know if there was a play.
Yeah, I think he might have had a chance. He's got the ball with a lot of territory still to cover.
Now both runners go. Escobar is out at second base. So Getz moves up to third, but because a runner was thrown out, it is not a steal for him. Escobar is gunned down for the 5th time this year. And now Mitch Meyer is going to bat for Lewis Coleman. Meyer came on as a pinch hitter in the game on Friday night in single. 2-1. Three and one.
Right, we see on a double still here, Yadier Molina does a really nice job. You got two runners in motion. It's like he's stepping to third at first, and he's going to come back and go to second base. I guess that's why he wears the gold glove.
Three balls and two strikes on Meyer. Last night, Meyer also appeared as a pinch hitter for Vin Mazzaro in the 7th inning and grounded out to short. So 1 for 2 in this series and 3 out of 6 this year as a pinch hitter. And we'll do it again at 3 balls and 2 strikes. Well, some of the fans may not like the rules of the National League, but the bench players in the American League do. It means more playing time for Mitch Meyer, albeit in pinch hit appearances. He's had 3. He is 1 for 3. The Royals tie the game on the bunt single by Escobar in the 6th inning. Cardinals took the lead in the bottom of the 5th inning, but the Royals come right back in the top of the 6th. So a 3-3 tie to the bottom of the 6th inning. Coming up on Friday, Kansas City hometown celebrities Paul Rudd, Rob Riggle, and Jason Sudeikis will return to Kauffman Stadium and host the first annual Big Slick Celebrity Wiffle Ball game. That'll be at the Little K at 5:30. Prior to the Royals and the Cubs at 7:10. So you want to come out early for that one. 5:30 at the Little K. For tickets, go to Royals.com or call 1-800-6-ROYALS. So Blake Wood comes on in the bottom of the 6th inning after Lewis Coleman gave up the home run to Albert Pujols. So Coleman is off the hook. And now Blake Wood with Andrew Brown, Daniel Descalzo, and the pitcher spot coming up. Blake Wood was the winning pitcher for the Royals on Friday night. Pitched a scoreless 7th inning, 3 up, 3 down, and won his 3rd game of the year.
I think he's throwing the ball much better as of late. It seems like he is much more aggressive. He's on the attack again, and it seems like he's got a lot more confidence in what he's doing on the mound.
Brown lines it to center. It is sinking, and it drops in front of Melky Cabrera. Andrew Brown back in the 1st, drove in 2. And the Cardinals have the leadoff man on in the 6th inning.
Normally Blake Wood's going to get a lot of sink on his pitch. This one just kind of stayed up in the middle part of the plate, mid-thigh. Easy to do what he did on this on that pitch. Base hit the center.
And now Daniel Descalzo. Glad that Danny Duffy is out. Danny struck him out twice. Pops a bunt foul. Duffy going 3 2/3 innings. Left in the 4th because of a cramp in his calf. Lewis Coleman an inning and a 1/3. We just got an injury update on the Cardinals. Albert Pujols, after a collision with Wilson Betemit in the top of the 6th inning, had to leave because of a sprained left wrist. Danny Duffy with a career high 9 strikeouts in his 3 2/3 innings today. Descalzo gets the bunt down, and Wood will play it to first. Chris Getz over to cover. So 1-4 on the sacrifice. And now the Cardinals will send a pinch hitter to the plate for Mitchell Boggs. Today's copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Kansas City Royals. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Kansas City Royals Baseball Corporation. Ryan Lefevre with Jeff Montgomery, Joel Goldberg at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, with producer Kevin Shank, director Steve Kurtenbach, our associate producers Al Broughton, Sam Abramson, and the producer of Royals Live is TJ McGinnis. That would be Thomas James McGinnis. Ball one on Skip Schumacher. One out of 7 in this series. Couple of runs scored, off to a 228 start. This is just his 38th game. He was on the disabled list in the middle of April and was on the DL for over a month. A right biceps injury. Outside, 3 balls and no strikes. Excuse me, it's Timothy John.
And I always thought it was Thomas Jefferson.
Well, somebody, was that you that asked that today? No, Bob Davis was in here and asked that. And sorry to throw him under the bus, but our director, Steve Kurtenbach, said it was Thomas James. Way to go, K-Man. 3-1. I mean, I only missed by 2. Three balls and 2 strikes. Grounded foul. Blake Wood comes in today pitching very well, in addition to winning the game on Friday with a scoreless inning. In his last 10 appearances, he has given up 1 earned run, and that's over 11 innings. Line to left field. Alex is up with it in left, but realizes there is no play. So back and forth we go. Schumacher comes off the bench, drives in Andrew Brown, and St. Louis is back out in front. Pretty good at bat.
Yeah, you got to credit Skip Schumacher here. Goes the other way. Nice pitch away, but puts it in play opposite field. We've seen that a lot today out of these Cardinals hitters.
It doesn't always work out this way, but that's a classic example right there of a hitter fighting off some pitches, fouling him away until he got a pitch that he could handle. And now he's at first for Pete Kozma. Schumacher bouncing around over at first base, either thinking about running or trying to get Blake Wood's attention. And now Kozma laying down a bunt, and boy, he lays that down. He could walk to first base. Wilson Betemit very deep on the left side. Betemit may be in a step more than he was, but he's still back. And Kozma went too far on that swing. It's 0-2.
Blake's had a much improved slider this year. I think that's one of the things he attributes to his recent success. Be a good chance to go with it right here.
One and two. Royals have led 1-0. They've been down 2-1, and the game was tied at 2 until Pujols homered in the 5th. Skip Schumacher just got a great jump. The Royals can turn this into a double play, and they will. Cardinals regain the lead in the 6th. Royals down by 1. Still 3 innings to play. Alcides Escobar has had another good series. He's done it all road trip. Let's call him today's Miller Lite Taste Greatness moment.
He does a nice job here getting a bunt down, getting an RBI out of it. Lance Berkman just coming in the game. Didn't seem like he was ready for this one. May have had a play at the plate. Didn't give it a shot.
So that tied the game. And then the Cardinals regaining the lead on Schumacher's pinch hit base hit in the 6th. And now lefty Brian Talbot, who has a 7.15 ERA, a .327 opponent's batting average, with Gordon, Cabrera, and Butler coming up. It is possible, and remember, we're talking about Tony La Russa managing, that Talbot will face just one batter. And Miguel Batista, a righty, is warming up behind him in the Cardinal bullpen as Talbot throws behind Alex Gordon. That may have something to do with this highlight.
Yeah, they have a little history. May 27th here, or 22nd, here's a home run from Alex Gordon off of Talbot. That tied up the game.
Would make sense for Talbot to want to do that here. I mean, if he's going to get one batter, well, okay. That made it pretty obvious. Well, it's a pretty confident bunch to hit the leadoff man in a one-run game in the 7th inning.
I just don't get that move right there.
You never know when there's going to be retaliation, and I don't know if Talbot did that because Alex homered off of him. But remember, we go back to Friday night, and the Royals hit 2 batters in 1 inning.
Yeah, there was no doubt that what his mission was, and he accomplished it here on the 2nd pitch. Alex knew it was coming. Let's take it right here. We go. Looked like he got him in his shoulder blade. I'm not sure that didn't feel exactly like he would like for it to.
On Friday night, Felipe Paulino lost his control in the 3rd inning. He walked 3 and he hit 2 batters, including Matt Holliday. Now that was with the bases loaded. That drove in a run. He also hit their catcher that night, Tony Cruz. And then earlier today, Albert Pujols, right before he hit a home run that put the Cardinals in front 3-2, he took a pitch up and in from Lewis Coleman. I don't know if there's been a manager in the last 20 years, or well, you go back to 1979. That was the first year Tony La Russa was a major league manager at the age of 34. I don't know if there's been a manager that is more offended by his hitters getting hit by a pitch than Tony La Russa.
Right, and with only 3 innings left in interleague play with the St. Louis Cardinals, if they were going to take care of business, this was running out of time.
And now Melky rolls it through the right side. And Alex will stop at second base as Brown charges aggressively. So right now this move is backfiring on the Cardinals. 2 on, nobody out with the middle of the order coming up.
Nice hole on the right side of the infield. The first baseman holding on Alex. Melky Cabrera takes advantage of it, shoots one to right. Alex said, I'm going to just take it like a man.
So Talent does his job, I guess. And now Miguel Batista comes on to face Billy Butler. So Brian Talent with an ERA over 7 called on. We thought maybe to face one batter, Alex Gordon, with Miguel Batista warming up behind him. But he faced Gordon and Cabrera. He hit Alex Gordon. And by the way, there was no warning issued. I didn't see.
I didn't either.
By the home plate umpire, Ed Hickox.
You know, oftentimes Tony La Russa, there's a little doubt on whether it was intentional or not. He erases that doubt, because if you are going to get hit, look at who was hit in the previous games from the St. Louis Cardinals.
And you go back to Matt Holliday, who was hit by a pitch. That's one of his big guys in the batting order. Hit by a pitch on Friday night with the bases loaded. Here's the pitch we're talking about. The first one, by the way, was thrown behind Alex, so he was expecting the second one to be close. It hits him in the back. But Matt Holliday was hit. Now, he did get an RBI. The bases were loaded, so I guess the tit for tat is their left fielder was hit, and now the Royals left fielder was hit, and I guess we're all even now.
And that's how they eliminate the uncertainty on why was this guy hit.
And Billy Butler lines it to center field. Alex will move up. Talent gave up a single to Melky Cabrera after plunking Gordon. Billy Butler 2 for 4 with that line out to center field. And now the tying runner is at third base with 1 out. And Jeff Francoeur comes to the plate. So here's one of those situations where Francoeur trying to avoid a strikeout or a double play. The infield will be in at least halfway. And Francoeur leads the league in sacrifice flies. And sometimes that is an accidental statistic. Just happen to be hitting fly balls. Maybe you're a fly ball hitter and a runner happens to be at third base. But Francoeur had 11 sacrifice flies last year, 7 this year. And for a guy who's been around for a while and knows what to do in a situation like this, talking to Kevin Seitzer about this stat at the beginning of the series, and he feels like it is not an accidental statistic. It stands out, Monty, because there's a stat in the first place. If you hit a ground ball and you score a runner from third base by making an out, there's no statistic for that. But for whatever reason, if you hit a fly ball and the runner scores, well, we have the sacrifice fly.
Right, giving yourself up in order for the runner on third to score.
Francoeur 1 for 3 with a stolen base today. One ball, one strike. Tony La Russa was thinking matchups here. This is a good one for Batista. Francoeur with 10 career at-bats and 1 hit against Miguel Batista and 5 strikeouts.
Tony La Russa, knowing the numbers, I'm sure Miguel Batista knows those numbers too, and he feels very confident in facing a Jeff Francoeur. Enough history to have established that confidence.
Miguel Batista played briefly for the Royals back in 2000. Pitched in 14 games, made 9 starts.
He's an interesting individual. He's a writer, he's a musician, he does a little bit of everything.
Remember when he was with the Royals, he had a little journal that he would walk around with to the ballpark, would get there early, walk around whatever ballpark or whatever city we happen to be in, and would be journaling and writing poetry. He's the only Royal I can think of since I've been around that had a poster of Albert Einstein in his locker. And the memory that is burned in my brain forever. We were in Detroit, and in the middle of the game, a hailstorm broke out. Of course, everybody's running for cover. I mean, it's just absolute madness in Detroit. And Miguel Batista comes out of the dugout, and he's just looking up into the sky as he's just getting pelted in the face by ice. And being from the Dominican Republic, he just couldn't believe it. And as he said afterwards, you know, in my country, we use ice to make drinks cold. Ice doesn't fall out of the sky. So he wanted to see that. That was an experience I guess he felt like he wasn't going to have very often. So there he was. I'll never forget it. Out in front of the first base dugout at Comerica Park. Just sitting there fascinated by ice falling out of the sky and falling all over Miguel Batista.
Like a kid from Florida visiting Kansas City in January.
Yeah.
Never seen that white stuff before.
Cabrera runs, and Francoeur lines it. That'll be a double play. So the Cardinals gamble by hitting the leadoff hitter, and the Royals are scoreless in the 7th. 4-3 Cardinals to the bottom of the 7th inning. And before we get to the bottom of the 7th, we remind you that you have the opportunity to become a parking lot legend by entering the Ultimate Royals Tailgate Sweepstakes. A lucky winner will be selected each month. You'll receive a tailgate for up to 30 catered by Jack Stack Barbecue, Royals game tickets for the entire group, an exclusive DJ, a special visit from Slugger, in-game recognition on Crown Vision, and much more. You can enter today at royals.com/ultimate tailgate. Blake Wood gave up a run in the 6th inning, a rare run allowed by him. Just the 2nd earned run allowed in his last 11 appearances. Andrew Brown singled. Daniel Descalzo bunted him up, and Skip Schumacher, as a pinch hitter, singled him home. So Ryan Theriot with 2 hits leads off, followed by Colby Rasmus and Lance Berkman. Didn't take very long. Good start in the 7th inning for Blake Wood. I want to remind you again about the online auction. It includes the opportunity for you to secure a spot in the Joplin Jersey Handoff fundraiser scheduled for Saturday, June the 25th, following the Royals Cubs game. During the event, volunteers will sell $1 instant win scratch tickets. The proceeds benefiting the American Red Cross and Royals Charities disaster relief efforts. So following the Royals and the Cubs at 6:10 Saturday, June the 25th, Royals players and coaches will award the jerseys they wore during that game to each winner. That was Blake Wood's first strikeout, getting Ryan Theriot. And 10 strikeouts for Royals pitchers today. Danny Duffy had a career high 9, but only able to go 3 2/3 innings because of a calf cramp. Excuse me? A calf cramp.
It's a medical term anyway.
Well, those calf cramps will hurt you too. Sometimes that's worse than a calf cramp. But thank goodness it was not a camp cramp. So we expect to see Danny Duffy in his next start. Colby Rasmus 0 for 3, line to center last time up. He is 1 out of 16 against Royals pitching this year. Base hit with 1 out to center field. So the 3rd hit for the Cardinals, and 2 innings against Blake Wood. And Now Lance Berkman bats for the first time. He was supposed to have the game off, but had to come on in the top of the 6th inning after this happened to Albert Pujols.
Yeah, just a scary moment there for the Cardinals fans and for Albert Pujols. Just really in a position where Wilson Bettamy couldn't do anything except what he did, just ran through the base.
A sprained left wrist. After they took a look at Albert Pujols, and I'm sure we'll find out tomorrow when we're back in Kansas City how bad that sprained left wrist is. Is it enough to put him on the disabled list? It sure sounds better than a broken left wrist. 2-0 on Berkman.
Albert's such a wristy hitter, oh, it might be difficult for him to really generate the bat speed with if he's got anything going on with his wrist.
Berkman started the first 2 games, 2 out of 7. 3 RBIs. Got all of those RBIs with 1 swing on Friday night, a 3-run double. Royals won game 1 5-4. Cardinals won last night 5-4, and here we are in another 1-run game. All of the games have been close. First 2 games in Kansas City were 3-0 shutouts. Royals winning the first game, Cardinals the next. And then 3 straight games decided by 1 run. A closer in for a save has been required in the first 5 games of the series. Rasmus is running, and that is lined to Billy Butler, and the Royals turn a double play just as the Cardinals did in the top half of the inning.
For exclusive updates on the Royals, go to foxsportskansascity.com.
Billy Butler in the starting lineup, 1 game this series, and today he has 2 hits and RBI and just turned a double play to win the bottom of the 7th inning. Going around the major leagues on the Panera scoreboard, they're delayed. Pittsburgh at Cleveland. Cleveland a 1-game lead over the Tigers in our division. Texas a 1.5-game lead over Seattle. Seattle continues to hang in there, 1 game above 500. There's good news for Cardinal fans as the Red Sox beat Milwaukee. So the Cardinals at least have the opportunity to be in a first-place tie today. Minnesota beats San Diego. The Minnesota Twins have won 7 in a row. Lonnie, they're 8 games below 500. They were 20 games below 500 when they came into Kansas City. That was just the last homestand.
Yeah, they've had an amazing turnaround. It's starting to remind me a little bit of their 2003 season when they turned things around dramatically.
They are 7.5 games back at the moment.
I'm sure they have that thinking in the back of their mind that anything can happen here.
Well, and that's true. I mean, they were playing very poorly, but even though it was still somewhat early in the season, I mean, figure they were buried. I mean, you're 20 games below. You have that many teams to pass, and they've got some big names on that roster, but they also have some big problems. But Joe Mauer is back.
Scott Baker throws a shutout last night.
Eventually they'll get Morneau back from the DL. They'll get Kubel back from the DL. They'll get Span back from the DL. They'll get Tomey back from the DL. 2 balls, 2 strikes from Jason Mott to Wilson Bettamy. Playing for the first time in the series today. Singled in the 6th inning, an infield single, and then collided with Albert Pujols. He is facing Jason Mott here in the 8th. Mott is the 5th Cardinals pitcher. And he strikes out Bettamy. So 1 down in the 8th.
With Jason Mott on the mound for the Cardinals and Blake Wood with the Royals, we have the 2 pitchers who have got a win in the last 2 games in this series. So.
And to earn his win last night, Mott went 2/3 of an inning. Blake Wood pitched a scoreless inning on Friday for his win. Inside to Matt Trainer. Struck out his first 2 times, but then set up the Royals tying run in the 6th after Bedamit reached with an infield single. Trainer got a sacrifice bunt down, and then Alcides Escobar with a bunt single got Bedamit to the plate. That's hit hard to center field. A long run for Rasmus, and he runs it down. Nice play. And he had to go a long way, not just because he ran onto the warning track, but he was playing Trainer shallow in center.
Yeah, when he hit this ball, I didn't think it was going to carry as far as it did, but obviously got good wood on it. Sends it a long way. Nice job coasting to make the catch.
You could see the sun reflecting off of his glasses, so not only did he have to run as hard as he could, as far as he could, but he was fighting the sun a bit. Chris Getz, 2 out of 3. So he continues to hit well in the day games. One of the best hitters in the American League during the day. No balls and 2 strikes against Jason Mott. He has added 6 points to his average. He has also added his 10th stolen base of the year. Still 0-2.
Chris Getz gets things going early with the single. Not going to give up here. Nice stolen base. Scores a run. Now with another base hit to left field.
And that was on a 0-2 pitch after several foul balls. And it was another base hit for Chris Getz with runners in scoring position. He did not drive in a run, but got a base hit with Bedamit at third. Popped up to the right side. And the play is made by Schumacher to end the inning.
Hello. No idea what's coming up on the show, but we'll get through it. Welcome back to Busch Stadium, where St. Louis leads the Royals 4-3. After the game on Boulevard Royals Live, we'll be talking some Danny Duffy, as he has a career high in strikeouts, most by a Royals pitcher this year as well, and we'll update his health situation. Hear from Ned Yost, highlights, and much more coming up on the show produced by Thomas Jefferson, Timothy John McGinnis. It's Boulevard Royals Live after the game, guys.
You forgot Thomas James. That was another one that we threw out there also. So it's Aaron Crow in the bottom of the 8th. Matt Holliday, Yadier Molina, and Andrew Brown. Aaron Crow pitched on Friday. Also came on in the bottom of the 8th and pitched a scoreless inning with a walk, and he had a strikeout. Matt Holliday in the 8th inning last night hit a 2-run home run against Greg Holland that put the Cardinals in front 5-4. That was the final score. Interesting, that was game 2 of the series. In game 2 of the series back in Kansas City, Matt Holliday hit a home run in the 8th inning that put the Cardinals in front. And he has really swung the bat well since coming back from the DL. He's 0 for 3 today. One of his outs is a line out to left. So 5 out of 12 with 2 home runs and 4 RBIs. 3 balls and 1 strike against Aaron Crow. Royals got 3 2/3 innings from Danny Duffy and a career high 9 strikeouts, but he left with a calf strain, a calf cramp actually. Lewis Coleman gave up a run in an inning and a third. Blake Wood gave up a run in 2 innings. 4 runs, 10 hits for the Cardinals. Royals have 3 runs, 9 hits. Slider stayed high and a leadoff walk to Holiday. It's only the second walk all day given up by a Royals pitcher. Should mention that about Danny Duffy. Only one walk in 3 2/3.
Yeah, it seemed like that was really an objective of his coming in to limit the walks. Unfortunately, he was not able to stay out there long enough due to the cramp in his calf. But a lot better job on keeping the ball in the strike zone today, and the strikeouts show for that.
Yadier Molina shortening up the bunt, pulling the bat back, shortening the bunt again, and takes ball one outside. 0 for 2 with a walk. Two sacrifice bunts this year. Two 2-0.
Royals likely will see Fernando Salas in the last inning, so hopefully he's 12 out of 13 in save opportunity, so hopefully can make it a 1-run cushion for him, get through this inning without giving up any more runs.
Royals will have Escobar, the pitcher spot, and Alex Gordon in the top of the 9th. This time Molina takes a strike, and it's 2-1. Salas with the save last night, getting Chris Getz, Alcides Escobar, and Billy Butler. Holiday runs. It's a hit and run, and deja vu. That's the way the bottom of the 7th ended. Runner going, line drive to first, easy double play for Billy Butler.
Billy Butler coming off the base with the runner in motion. Perfect position. Doesn't have to move. Yadier Molina throws the bat in disgust.
You know, that's just bad luck more than anything. Hitter tries to keep the ball out of the middle. And most of the time you're trying to hit the ball to the opposite field so that the runner can go first to third. Went to the opposite field. He hit it hard, but right into the glove of Billy Butler. And now a ground ball from Andrew Brown to Chris Getz, and that's the inning. So last chance for the Royals as we go to the 9th in a 1-run game. Four 3 Cardinals lead to the 9th inning. Royals have turned double plays, 3 double plays. Here are the Chevy plays of the game. Billy Butler's been involved in all 3, but not the way that you would imagine.
A little unconventional here with Skip Schumacher running on the play. Pete Kozma pops one up and gets an easy one there. There, a line drive from Lance Berkman. Now here in the bottom of the 8th, another line drive from Yadier Molina. Right place at the right time.
Billy's only start of the series. So it will be Fernando Salas here in the 9th inning. Another good day for Alcides Escobar. A walk, a line out to second base. It could have been a base hit. An excellent play by Kozma, who was at second base at the time. And then an RBI bunt single in the 6th. And that tied the game at 4. Cardinals took the lead in the bottom of the 6th. So Salas going for his 13th save. He got number 12 last night.
So the Cardinals hoping for a Mexican-born starting pitcher and closer to be involved in the decisions in this game.
Jaime Garcia going for his 7th win. John Jay is now in right field. So he takes over for Andrew Brown. Two balls and 2 strikes on Alcides Escobar. What a road trip. 17 out of 32. Batting .252, 40 points added to his average since the last homestand.
You could understand doing that on maybe a 1-month road trip.
Yeah, man.
But a 9-gamer?
And a 9-gamer 60-70 games into the season. Still 2 balls, 2 strikes. Royals trying to finish this road trip with a winning record. They are 4-4 at the moment. They are trying to finish the season series with the Cardinals all even. Cardinals 3-2 against the Royals so far. Eric Hosmer is going to bat. 3 balls and 2 strikes on Escobar. Cardinals, on the other hand, were hoping to use yesterday for inspiration, putting an end to a 7-game losing streak, and bounce back today with another win. Milwaukee has lost. So if the Cardinals can hang on, they'd be in a first-place tie with the Brewers in the Central. Another foul ball off to the right field side.
We're seeing a lot of foul balls here from Escobar, and I think that's one of the things that the shortened swing has allowed him to do instead of missing some of those pitches, especially when, like, Salas climbed the ladder early in the at-bat. He's now able to foul those pitches off to keep the at-bat alive.
Last night against Salas, Escobar flied out to right field, so he went to the opposite field last night. And fouls it away again. We hope you'll join us for a unique dining experience at Kauffman Stadium. The 390 Bar and Grill features a private bar, 65-inch high-definition TVs throughout the restaurant, a climate-controlled environment. It's an affordable way to enjoy the game. It is open to the public, located on the third base side of the Loge level next to section 301. Drilled to left field. Alcides Escobar picked a great time for his first home run as a Royal.
Trying to go back to early in that bat, he fouled off some pretty good pitches to keep the bat alive.
He has done everything for the Royals on this road trip except fly the team plane, and they might let him do that after the game today.
Here we see another pitch up an inner part. Alcides hasn't seen that pitch very often, but he deposits this one in the stands in left field. Got to be happy for him.
It was the 10th pitch of the at-bat. And that did not look like a guy who hit his first home run of the season. He hit that thing off the facing of the second deck, which, by the way, is way back of the first deck. That is a long, long way from home plate. Yeah, you talk about beyond baseball.
He won that pitch away. It just drifts back out, and he didn't waste any time when jumping all over it.
Eric Hosmer, shallow center field, and Terrio goes out from short to make the catch. So a blown save for Salas, his second of the year, and the Cardinals' 13th blown save. And now it's Alex Gordon with 1 out in the 9th inning. Alex, 1 out of 3, drove in a run with a single in the second inning, was hit by a pitch in the 7th, which was intentional. Brian Tallett throwing a pitch behind Alex Gordon and then drilled him in the back. Almost backfired on the Cardinals, with the Royals having 2 on and nobody out following a Melky Cabrera single in a 1-run game late in the game. But the Cardinals got out of that inning thanks to a couple of line drives. One of those line drives was a double play. Broke his bat Colby Rasmus drifting into left center field, and there are 2 down. Remember, fans, you can continue to support the Joplin relief effort by texting Red Cross to 90999, and that will automatically donate $10 to the American Red Cross Disaster Relief. Ball 1 to Melky Cabrera, who is 1 for 4 with a run scored. With that Alcides Escobar home run, another $22,000 has been raised to support prostate cancer research. And you can make a donation by calling 1-800-798-CURE or go to pcf.org. Royals tie the game on Alcides Escobar, first home run as a Royal. To the bottom of the 9th inning, tied at 4. A 396-foot home run for Alcides Escobar, his first of the year, ties the game in the 9th inning. So after 3 games decided by 1 run, now we go to the bottom of the 9th in a tied game. And for Escobar, that is 18 hits on this road trip.
Just an amazing piece of hitting there. Keeps his at bat alive, sees a bunch of pitches, hits it off the facing. 396 feet, you say?
Yeah. Man.
Was not a fence scraper.
So it'll be Tim Collins in the bottom of the 9th. Collins pitched last night an inning plus 1 batter. Here's what he's done against the Cardinals this year. 3 games, a 7.71 ERA. His worst outing was the Sunday game in Kansas City, which the Cardinals won 9-8. Daniel Descalzo, Skip Schumacher, and the pitcher spot coming up. So Collins will get at least 2 left-hand batters. Both teams have an off day tomorrow, so they can run just about everybody out there from the bullpen. Collins is the 5th Royals pitcher. Tony La Russa has used 6 pitchers today. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Good to see Tim Collins coming in throwing strikes. Getting ahead of hitters, the key for him.
2-2.
Oftentimes he gets in a fastball mode when he gets behind the count. I think that's when he's susceptible.
And now 3 balls, 2 strikes. A 3.68 ERA with a 176 opponent's batting average. And when I see numbers like that, even though 3.68, it's not that bad, but 176 opponent's batting average, put those 2 numbers together and it would lead you right to walks. And 29 walks in 36 2/3 innings. There's a ground ball base hit into right field for Descalzo. He's going to try for 2 on Jeff Francoeur, who guns him out at second base. That's the 23rd outfield assist for the Royals this year. That is 2 more than all of last year.
Jeff Francoeur's just done a super job all year, getting the balls quickly, getting rid of them quickly. And he's got such a great arm. Bare hands this ball, gets it into second base. Not a question at second.
That is an amazing play. I mean, we know about Francoeur's arm, but to grab that ball with the bare hand, and in many ways that was almost like a blind throw to the target. He had no time at all to find the target and set his feet. I mean, he just grabbed it and threw a strike to Escobar.
He's just an amazing athlete. He can do a lot of good things, and certainly when you have that type of athleticism, the hands come into play, and showed it right there.
And now that is stroked to deep right center field. Skip Schumacher ends the game with a home run. You talk about a roller coaster ride during a baseball season, during a month, during a series, during a game. How about the roller coaster ride on 2 pitches in this inning? Jeff Francoeur just made a great play to appear to save the inning, throwing out a runner at second base, and then Skip Schumacher hitting just his 2nd home run of the year to win the game in the bottom of the 9th. And with that home run by Schumacher, another $22,000 has been raised to support prostate cancer research. You can make a donation by calling 1-800-798-CURE or go to pcf.org. All 3 games of this series finished in a 5-4 score, and all 3 games decided very late. Cardinals win the game, they win the series. We'll be right back. What a game, what a series. All games decided by 1 run. 4 straight games between the 2 teams decided by 1 run. The Royals get a home run in the top of the 9th inning from Alcides Escobar, his first of the year. But then in the bottom of the 9th inning with 1 out, Tim Collins to Skip Schumacher.
Yeah, Ryan, a very unlikely suspect here, hitting a home run, only his 2nd of the season off Tim Collins. But he really didn't hesitate. Ball was in his zone, and he jumped all over it.
Right after a fantastic play in right field by Jeff Francoeur, cutting down Daniel Descalzo. So it's a 4-5 road trip. The Royals finished 2-4 this year against the Cardinals, and now St. Louis back in a first-place tie in their division. Tuesday night, Luke Kochaber will pitch for the Royals as the Royals begin a 3-game series with the Diamondbacks. For Jeff Montgomery, this is Ryan Lefebvre. Boulevard Royals Live is next.